Hi, I'm Alex. What if Earth has already been reset? What if we're not the pioneers we imagine, but the sequel to a story that was erased? Tonight, we explore a question that sits uncomfortably between science fiction and geological fact. If journeys like this spark your curiosity, a gentle like and subscribe helps keep these stories alive. Now let's begin. When you think about the word reset, it sounds almost gentle, doesn't it? Like pressing a button on your phone when it freezes, watching the screen flicker, and then seeing everything return to normal. Clean, simple, controlled. But when we talk about Earth resetting, we're not talking about anything gentle at all. We're talking about violence on a scale so immense that it reshapes the entire story of life itself. Earth has reset at least 5 times in the last 540 million years. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, but physically, catastrophically, in ways that erased between 75 and 96% of everything that lived. These are called the Big Five mass extinctions, and they are written into the rocks beneath your feet like scars in stone. Each time the planet came close to silence, and each time somehow life returned. Not the same life, not the creatures that came before, but something new, something evolved from the survivors, something that filled the emptiness left behind. The resets came in different forms. Sometimes it was an asteroid, a mountain of stone and iron screaming down from space at speeds no human mind can truly comprehend. Sometimes it was volcanoes, not the kind you see in documentaries, but super eruptions that lasted for hundreds of thousands of years, drowning continents in molten rock and poisoning the atmosphere with gas. Sometimes it was ice, vast glaciers creeping across the land, burying ecosystems under miles of frozen silence. And sometimes it was the ocean itself turning toxic, choking on its own chemistry, becoming a graveyard instead of a cradle. The most famous of these resets happened 66 million years ago. It is called the KT extinction, and it ended the age of the dinosaurs. Not gradually, not peacefully, but in a single morning that changed everything. Imagine this if you can. It is 11:47 in the morning on a spring day, 66 million years before you were born. Somewhere in what we now call Mexico, a piece of rock 10 kilometers wide, as tall as Mount Everest, is high slams into the earth at 20 kilometers per second. That is faster than anything you have ever seen move, faster than sound can travel, faster than thought itself. The energy released in that single moment was equal to 10 billion Hiroshima bombs detonating at once. 10 billion. The temperature at the point of impact reached 10,000 degrees Celsius, hotter than the surface of the sun. Rock vaporized instantly. The ground did not just crack, it liquefied, and in the first 60 seconds, a shockwave tore outward, flattening everything within 1,500 kilometers. Trees, mountains, rivers, all of it gone. Molten rock was blasted upward into space, arcing across the sky, before falling back down across the entire planet, like a rain of fire from heaven. Within the first 24 hours, earthquakes measuring 11.0 on the Richter scale shook the earth for 20 continuous minutes. Tsunamis taller than the Empire State Building, waves 1.5 kilometers high, crashed into coastlines thousands of miles away. The sky filled with ash and smoke and dust, and the sun disappeared. 75% of all animal species on Earth died within that first day. not over centuries, not over generations, within hours. And here is the part that makes scientists pause. When you dig into the rock from that time, you find a layer just 1 centimeter thick that circles the entire globe. In that thin band of Earth, the concentration of a rare metal called iridium is 30,000% higher than it should be. Iridium is uncommon on Earth's surface, but it is abundant in asteroids. This layer is the fingerprint of the killer, and the killer came from space. Now imagine you are standing in Montana on that morning. The asteroid strikes Mexico more than 2,400 miles away. You don't see it happen, but 15 minutes later, you feel the ground shake beneath your feet. 3 hours later, the sky begins to glow orange as molten debris rains down. By nightfall, the temperature has risen 20 degrees, and then for the next 2 years, there is no day, only darkness, no sunlight, no crops, no food chains, just silence and cold and the slow collapse of everything that once thrived. The dinosaurs had ruled this planet for 165 million years. Humans have been here for 300,000. We are still in what you might call a trial period, and Earth has a habit of not renewing contracts. This is not a story from a Hollywood disaster film. This is data pulled from more than 1,200 peer-reviewed scientific studies. And somehow, the reality is more terrifying than any movie could ever be. But here is what keeps geologists awake at night. That thin layer of iridium, the signature of catastrophe, appears not just in Mexico, it appears everywhere on Earth at the exact same moment in time. A global reset written in stone. And recently, they found another layer, thinner, newer, from 12,800 years ago, when humans already existed. There is one story that appears in more than 200 cultures scattered across the globe. Cultures separated by oceans and mountains and thousands of miles, with no contact between them, no trade routes, no shared language, and yet, impossibly, they all tell the same story. A story about water rising so high it swallowed the world. The flood myths are everywhere. In ancient Mesopotamia, the Epic of Gilgamesh tells of a deluge so vast that the gods themselves wept at what they had done. In Hebrew tradition, Noah builds an ark and saves his family and the animals from waters that covered the highest mountains. In Hindu scriptures, Manu is warned by a fish of a coming flood and survives to rebuild humanity. The Greeks spoke of Deucalion and Pyrrha, the only survivors when Zeus sent torrents to wash away the corruption of mankind. And these are just the beginning. In the Americas, completely isolated from the old world, for tens of thousands of years, the stories continue. The Hopi speak of multiple worlds destroyed by water. The Aztecs remembered ages that ended in floods. The Inca told of rising seas that drowned the earth. Across the Pacific, in Australia, in Polynesia, in islands scattered like seeds across the ocean, the same memory surfaces. Water rising, the world drowning, a handful of survivors clinging to life, while everything they knew disappeared beneath the waves. These are not vague similarities. These are detailed, specific accounts that share patterns so precise they make statisticians pause. Richard Dawkins, a skeptic, famous for dismantling myths and demanding evidence, once analyzed the probability of this being coincidence. If flood myths arose independently randomly, the odds of 200 different cultures telling nearly identical stories is roughly 1 in 10 to the 47th power. That number is so small, it barely exists. It is less likely than winning the Powerball lottery 8 times in a row. Either this is the greatest coincidence in human history, or these cultures are remembering something real, something that actually happened. Look closer at what they describe, and the patterns become even more chilling. This is not just there was a flood. The details align in ways that feel impossible. Every myth speaks of water rising not over centuries, but within days or weeks. Fast, sudden, unstoppable. Every myth describes not a local river overflowing, but water covering all the land that people knew horizon to horizon. Every myth includes a small group, a family or chosen few, who were warned beforehand and survived. And every myth ends the same way. After the flood, the world begins again. It is reset, like formatting a hard drive, erasing what came before, so something new can be written. And here is where it becomes difficult to dismiss as legend. The myths describe water rising between 120 and 150 meters, and geological data from the end of the last ice age shows that sea levels rose by exactly that amount. Not slowly, not gradually, but in pulses, surges, waves of melting ice that pushed the ocean higher in sudden jumps. The myths say days or weeks. The science says decades or centuries, which to people living through it, to generations watching the shoreline creep closer and closer, might as well be the same thing. There is a place that makes this real, a place that was not myth, but solid ground inhabited and alive until the water came. They call it Doggerland, and it is the Atlantis that actually existed. 12,000 years ago, it was a fertile plain connecting Britain to mainland Europe, a land bridge as wide as the island of Great Britain itself, covering 100,000 square miles. Rivers ran through it, forests grew thick, animals grazed, and people lived there, perhaps 10,000, perhaps as many as 100,000 building communities, hunting, fishing, raising families under open skies. Then the ice began to melt, not slowly, not peacefully. Over the course of 400 years, the sea rose 120 meters, and Doggerland drowned. But it did not happen evenly. It came in pulses, sudden surges, when ice dams broke or glaciers collapsed into the sea. Each generation watched the ocean eat into the land. Valleys became bays, hills became islands, and one day, 8,200 years ago, a massive underwater landslide off the coast of Norway, an event called the Storegga Slide, triggered a tsunami 20 meters high that swept across what remained of Doggerland and erased the last settlements in a single day. Today, fishing boats in the North Sea pull up bones of mammoths from the bottom, stone tools, fragments of worked wood, and sometimes quietly, without headlines, human remains. Sonar scans of the seabed show the unmistakable patterns of river systems, lakes, and what look disturbingly like villages buried under 40 meters of water. This is not legend. This is archaeology beneath the waves. And Doggerland is not alone. 16,000 years ago, Southeast Asia was twice the size it is today. Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand. All the islands that now dot the ocean were connected by a vast landmass called Sundaland, an area of 1.8 million square kilometers, roughly the size of Alaska. It was dry land. It was habitable. And then the ice melted and the sea rose, and the entire continent disappeared beneath the waves. If there were people living there, if there were cultures, cities, stories, they are gone. No trace. Nothing but water where land used to be. Now consider the pattern one more time. The Mesopotamian myths say the flood lasted 7 days. The Hindu texts say the water rose in 1 week. The Hopi traditions speak of waves arriving within 4 days. And the geological record shows that during a period called melt pulse, 1B 14,600 years ago, sea levels rose 16 meters in a single decade. Not a metaphor, not exaggeration, memory. This is memory passed down through generations, softened into story, but rooted in something that people lived through and survived and told their children who told theirs until it became myth. But the truth is still there, hiding in the shape of the story. Every culture remembers a terrible flood. Maybe our ancestors were not great swimmers, or maybe the sea rose so fast and so violently that even the memory of it became sacred, a warning carved into the collective consciousness of every people who survived. This story is not about aliens or mystical lost continents. This is about the unsettling reality that sometimes, just sometimes, folklore and hard science overlap in ways that make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. The story of Noah that you learned as a child, simplified and sanitized, might be a distant echo of something real, something that happened, and something far worse than the version you were told. Myths are faded memories. They blur with time, lose detail, gain embellishment. But if you want proof that cannot be argued away, proof written in stone and tested in laboratories, then you must turn to the rocks, because the rocks do not lie, and they are telling a story more terrifying than any myth ever could. If myths are the whispers of memory, then geology is the archive. The rocks beneath your feet hold records that go back hundreds of millions of years, and they document every catastrophe, every shift, every moment when the earth wiped its slate clean and started over. Within the last 540 million years, there have been 5 mass extinctions, so severe that they are marked as boundaries in time itself, dividing one age from another. These are not theories. These are facts visible in every cliff face, every layer of sediment, every fossil bed that shows an abrupt and undeniable break in the continuity of life. The worst of them all happened 252 million years ago. It is called the Great Dying, and the name is not dramatic. It is literal. 96% of all marine species vanished. 70% of all land animals disappeared. The Earth came closer to total lifelessness than at any other point in its history. If you could have stood on a beach during that time and looked out at the ocean, you would have seen nothing. No fish, no movement, just empty toxic water stretching to the horizon. The fossil record shows that for 5 million years afterward, the seas were nearly silent, dead zones the size of continents, reefs gone, ecosystems collapsed. It was the closest the planet has ever come to a true reset, and it almost succeeded. What caused it was not a single event, but a cascade. In what is now Siberia, volcanoes began to erupt. But these were not ordinary volcanoes. This was a flood basalt event where molten rock poured out of the earth, not in explosive bursts, but in continuous, relentless flows for 1 million years. The lava covered an area as large as the continental United States, in some places 3 kilometers deep, and as it flowed, it burned through massive coal deposits, buried in the ground, releasing carbon dioxide, into the atmosphere in quantities that stagger the imagination. The domino effect that followed was catastrophic. Global temperatures rose 8 degrees Celsius within a few thousand years, which sounds slow, but is geologically instantaneous. The oceans warmed, and as they did, they began to release methane, trapped in frozen deposits on the seafloor. Methane is a greenhouse gas far more potent than carbon dioxide, and as it bubbled up, temperatures spiked another 5 degrees. The ocean chemistry shifted. The pH dropped, turning the seas acidic, like pouring cola into the water on a planetary scale. 95% of coral reefs, which host a quarter of all marine species, simply ceased to exist. And then, for millions of years, silence. The Great Dying earned its name. But here is the thing that makes you pause, that makes you think about resilience and the stubbornness of life. From the 5% that survived from the scattered remnants clinging to existence in isolated pockets, life exploded back. Within 10 million years, the oceans were full again. Dinosaurs evolved. Mammals appeared. Birds took to the skies. Everything you know, everything alive today, including you, descended from those survivors. The reset cleared the board, and a new game began. But the Great Dying is ancient history. Let us talk about something closer. 12,800 years ago, something happened that geologists are still debating. There is evidence, controversial, but mounting, of an impact event. Not as large as the one that killed the dinosaurs, but significant. Significant enough to change everything. Within a decade, global temperatures dropped 10 degrees Celsius. Imagine the climate of Dallas becoming the climate of Alaska, not over centuries, but within 10 years. Harvests fail, animals starve, ecosystems collapse. At the exact same time, 35 species of megafauna went extinct. Mammoths, saber-toothed tigers, giant ground sloths, all gone. And at the exact same time, the Clovis culture, the most advanced and widespread human culture in North America, at that time vanished abruptly. Their tools disappear from the archaeological record. Their sites are abandoned. And across the continent, there is a layer of black, carbon-rich sediment called the black mat, marking the moment everything changed. In that layer, scientists have found nanodiamonds, microscopic crystals that only form under the intense pressure of an impact, magnetic spherules, tiny beads of melted rock, and a small but measurable spike in iridium, the same signature that marks the death of the dinosaurs, only smaller. And buried under 2 kilometers of ice in Greenland, there is a crater 31 kilometers wide, dated to 12,800 years ago. The smoking gun hidden beneath the ice, waiting to be fully understood. This is called the Younger Dryas event, and it happened when humans already walked the earth, when stories could be told and passed down. If you were alive, then, if you survived the sudden cold and the darkness and the hunger, what would you tell your children? How would you describe the sky turning black, the ground shaking, the world freezing? In what felt like an instant, you would tell them about fire from the heavens, about the gods punishing the wicked, about the end of the old world and the beginning of the new. And your children would tell their children, and the story would shift and soften, but the memory would remain. And then there are the ice ages, 20 of them in the last 2.5 million years, cycling roughly every 100,000 years, like a clock ticking in geological time. These were not gradual coolings, they were abrupt shifts triggered by changes in Earth's orbit and tilt amplified by feedback loops of ice and atmosphere. 115,000 years ago, Chicago was buried under ice, 1.6 kilometers thick. The glaciers advanced, grinding the land beneath them, reshaping valleys, carving mountains, pushing life into narrow refuges near the equator. And then, just as suddenly, they retreated. The ice melted, the seas rose, 120 meters, and every coastal civilization that might have existed was drowned. Imagine the temperature in Dallas dropping to match Alaska over the course of a single decade. Your growing season, once 6 months long, shrinks to 2 months, then to 0. Crops fail. Game animals migrate or die. And within a generation, your entire way of life is erased. That is what a reset looks like from the inside. Not an explosion, not a single day of fire, but a slow tightening of the noose until nothing remains but survival or death. And here is the part that should make you think. The geological clock is still ticking. Ice ages follow a predictable cycle, roughly every 100,000 years. The last ice age ended 11,700 years ago. We are currently in what is called an interglacial warm period, a brief window of stability that typically lasts 10 to 15,000 years, which means technically the next ice age could begin at any time, in the next few thousand years, or tomorrow. We do not know. The clock does not announce itself. It simply strikes. Earth has a habit of tearing things down and building them back up, like a man who renovates his garage for the 5th time, convinced that this time, it will be perfect. And maybe that is the perspective we need. When you look at 500 million years of history, when you see extinctions and ice ages and volcanic winters repeating in cycles, every disaster starts to look less like a catastrophe and more like another Tuesday. That does not make it less real. It just reminds you that impermanence is not the exception, it is the rule. The next time you complain about unpredictable weather, remember that there was a time when Earth was so unpredictable, it erased 96% of all life. We live in the calm between storms, the brief moment of warmth between ice ages, the quiet pause between resets, and the rocks record everyone. They are patient. They remember. They do not care about our cities or our technologies or our sense of permanence. They simply wait for the next layer to be written. But here is the unsettling part. The rocks tell us what happened. But the fossils are silent about so much more, and that silence might be the most frightening thing of all. When you walk through a museum and see fossils displayed behind glass skeletons of ancient creatures mounted on frames, it is easy to imagine that we have a clear window into the past, that these bones tell us the story of life on Earth, chapter by chapter, age by age. But the truth is far more unsettling. Fossils are not an archive. They are lottery tickets, and the odds of winning are worse than you can imagine. To become a fossil, an organism must die in exactly the right place at exactly the right time. It must be buried quickly before scavengers tear it apart or weather reduces it to dust. The conditions must be perfect. Not too much oxygen or bacteria will consume everything. Not too much pressure or the bones will be crushed. And even then, only the hard parts survive. Bones, shells, teeth, anything soft skin, muscle organs, internal structures, all of that vanishes within days. The fossil record preserves only the skeleton of life, never the flesh. The odds are staggering. Scientists estimate that roughly 1 in every 10,000 to 100,000 organisms that dies has any chance of becoming a fossil. And of those rare fossils, only about 1 in a million will ever be found by humans. When you combine those probabilities, you arrive at a number so small it barely exists. Roughly 1 in 10 billion. That means every fossil you see in a museum represents approximately 10 billion creatures that left no trace at all. The fossil record is not a book. It is a highlights reel, and 99.9999% of the film has been deleted forever. Consider insects. Today they make up 75% of all animal species on Earth. More than 1 million known species, with estimates suggesting millions, more yet undiscovered. They are everywhere, in every ecosystem, from the deepest caves to the highest mountains. And yet, in the fossil record, insects account for less than 1% of all fossils. We are looking at the history of 25% of life on this planet. The other 75% gone, invisible, as if they never existed. Or think about the octopus, one of the most intelligent creatures alive, capable of solving puzzles, using tools changing color and texture in milliseconds. They have been around for roughly 300 million years. And how many octopus fossils have we found? 12. 12 specimens across 300 million years of existence. If something as widespread and as remarkable as the octopus is nearly invisible in the fossil record, how many other species, entire lineages, whole branches of the tree of life have vanished without leaving a single trace? Now apply this to something closer to home. Neanderthals, our closest extinct relatives, lived for 300,000 years. They ranged across Europe, and Asia built tools. Controlled fire buried their dead, and we have found approximately 300 reasonably complete skeletons. That is one fossil per 1,000 years of existence. Homo sapiens, our own species, has been around for 300,000 years. The earliest fossils we have number in the thousands, scattered thinly across continents and millennia. The math is simple and terrifying. If a technologically advanced civilization existed 10,000 years ago and was completely wiped out, the odds of finding human fossils from that civilization would give us perhaps 10 individuals, and the odds of recognizing that they possessed technology, that they were more than just hunter-gatherers, nearly zero. There was a moment 508 million years ago when something extraordinary happened. A mudslide in what is now Canada buried an entire ecosystem in less than a second. The conditions were perfect. No oxygen, no decay. The pressure was just right. And when paleontologists discovered the site in 1909, they found something that changed everything. It is called the Burgess Shale, and it is one of the most important fossil beds ever found, because it preserved not just the hard parts, but the soft tissue as well. Creatures with no bones, no shells, nothing that would normally survive. And when scientists cataloged what they found, they realized that more than 60% of the species in the Burgess Shale would never have been fossilized under normal conditions. They would have simply disappeared, leaving no evidence they ever lived. The implication is staggering. If the Burgess Shale had not happened, if that one lucky mudslide had not buried that one small ecosystem at exactly the right moment, we would assume the Cambrian period had only a few dozen species. Instead, we now know there were thousands. One accident revealed an entire world we would have otherwise missed. And it makes you wonder, how much else are we missing? How many worlds have come and gone, leaving nothing behind because the conditions were never quite right? Now imagine a technological civilization, not aliens, just humans or something like us 50,000 years ago. They build cities, they create tools, machine structures, and then a reset comes. An asteroid, a volcanic winter, a pandemic, it does not matter. They are wiped out. What would remain? Buildings made of wood and organic materials would rot within centuries. Metal would rust and crumble within a few thousand years. Even concrete, our most durable construction material, would erode and fracture under the pressure of time. Plastic might survive 10 to 100,000 years, buried in sediment, a strange chemical signature in the rock. But after 1 million years, almost nothing would be left. A few unusual concentrations of rare metals in a thin layer of soil, chemical anomalies in carbon isotope ratios. That is it. No cities, no machines, no proof. If we vanished tomorrow, if humanity disappeared and the Earth reset, what would the fossil record show 10 million years from now? Perhaps 1,000 human skeletons scattered across the globe, a few tons of plastic particles pressed into sedimentary rock, and silence. The creatures that come after us, the species that rise in our absence, would have no idea we built skyscrapers, sent rockets to the moon, connected the entire planet with invisible signals traveling through the air. We would be invisible to them, just as any civilization before us might be invisible to us. The silence is the message. What fossils do not tell us is more important than what they do. Every gap in the fossil record could be a mass extinction, erasing species by the millions. Or it could be a period when conditions were simply too harsh for fossilization, leaving a blank page where life still thrived. Or it could be something else entirely, a time when something existed, flourished, built, created, and then vanished so completely that not even a whisper remains. The fossil record is like a dating profile. It shows only the highlights. 99% of reality has been cropped out, filtered away, lost to time. You thought you understood history. We are reading a book where 99.9% of the pages have been ripped out, and we are trying to reconstruct the story from the fragments that remain. Which leads to a question that keeps geologists awake at night. If fossils cannot tell us about 99.9% of life, if entire civilizations could rise and fall and leave almost no trace, then is it possible that we are not the first, that someone or something came before us, built their own world, and was erased so thoroughly that we walk past their ruins without ever knowing they were there? Every time we discover a lost city, we are reminded of how fragile memory really is. Pompeii, buried under volcanic ash in 79 AD, was forgotten for nearly 1,700 years, until a farmer digging a well-struck ancient stone. Machu Picchu sat high in the Andes, known to locals but invisible to the wider world until 1911. Angkor Wat, once the heart of a mighty empire, was swallowed by jungle when that empire fell its temples, strangled by roots and vines. And the Indus Valley Civilization, one of the earliest urban cultures left behind sprawling cities with advanced drainage systems and mysterious writing that we still cannot fully decipher. If these places, some abandoned only centuries ago, could be forgotten so completely, how many others have vanished without leaving even a name? In 1994, a farmer in southeastern Turkey was clearing land when he found something strange beneath the soil. It was stone-carved massive. When archaeologists arrived and began to excavate, what they uncovered changed everything we thought we knew about early human history. It is called Göbekli Tepe, and it is a temple complex built 11,600 years ago. That date alone is remarkable, but here is what makes it impossible to ignore. This temple was built 6,000 years before writing was invented. 6,000 years before we believed humans were even capable of constructing monuments on this scale. The site contains massive stone pillars, some weighing 20 tons, carved with sophisticated images of animals, abstract symbols, and what appear to be astronomical alignments. To build this, to quarry the stone transport, carve it, and erect, it would have required an organized society of at least 500 workers laboring for decades. And yet there is no evidence of agriculture at the site. No pottery, no permanent settlements nearby. Somehow, hunter-gatherers, people we assumed lived in small nomadic bands, came together to create something monumental. And then, for reasons we do not understand, they buried it, deliberately, completely, as if they wanted it hidden. The timeline of civilization just shifted backward by 7,000 years, and we only found it because someone needed to dig a well. Halfway across the world, in the middle of the Sahara Desert in Mauritania, there is a geological formation that looks from space like a perfect bullseye. It is called the Richat structure, and it is 40 kilometers wide, composed of concentric circles of rock that ripple outward in near-perfect symmetry. Mainstream geology calls it a natural formation, the result of erosion over millions of years. But here is the problem. There is no other geological formation on Earth that looks like this, and the coincidences are difficult to ignore. Plato, writing about Atlantis, described it as a circular city with concentric rings of land and water. The Richat structure is circular with concentric rings. Plato said Atlantis lay beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the ancient name for the Straits of Gibraltar. The Richat structure sits 400 miles south of Morocco, just beyond that threshold, and dating suggests the structure was formed when the region was not desert, but a green savanna near the ocean shore. 5 to 10,000 years ago, when the Sahara was fertile and alive. It could be nothing, a strange accident of geology and myth, or it could be something we are not yet ready to see. Off the coast of Japan in 1987, a diver found something beneath the waves that should not exist. It is called the Yonaguni Monument, a massive stone structure sitting 25 meters underwater. It has terraces, ramps, and steps cut at 90-degree angles, straight edges, sharp corners, features too regular to be explained by natural erosion alone. Some scientists argue it is a natural rock formation modified by human hands. Others believe it was built entirely by people. If it is man-made, it would have been constructed when sea levels were lower 10 to 12,000 years ago. before the ice melted and the ocean rose. That would make it the oldest known structure on Earth, and it is underwater where we almost never look. 70% of the Earth's surface is ocean, and we have explored only 5% of it. In the last few decades, sonar technology has revealed structures beneath the waves that challenge every assumption we hold about the past. In the Gulf of Cambay, off the coast of India, researchers found what appear to be building foundations and streets 9,500 years old, buried under 40 meters of water. Off the coast of Cuba, sonar scans revealed megalithic structures 700 meters down far too deep to have been submerged unless they date back to the last ice age. In the Mediterranean, dozens of ancient cities lie beneath the waves, drowned when coastlines shifted. 12,000 years ago, sea levels were 120 meters lower than they are today. Every coastline on Earth looked completely different. If civilizations existed then, and if they lived where most humans live now, near the water, near rivers and seas, and fertile shores, then the evidence of those civilizations is now underwater. We are searching for lost cities in 5% of the planet. The other 95% remains unseen, and that is where the answers might be hiding. In 1900, one divers exploring a shipwreck off the coast of Greece found a lump of corroded bronze. When researchers cleaned it and studied it, they realized it was not just metal. It was a machine, a device with more than 30 interlocking bronze gears designed to track the movements of the sun, the moon, and the planets. It could calculate eclipses. It could predict astronomical events years in advance. It is called the Antikythera mechanism, and it dates to approximately 100 BC. There was nothing comparable to it, nothing even close until the 1500s. More than 1,400 years later, someone in ancient Greece built a mechanical computer when Rome was still conquering Europe. And then the knowledge vanished, as if someone pressed delete on an entire branch of technology. Every discovery pushes the timeline backward. Göbekli Tepe tells us that civilization is 6,000 years older than we thought. The Antikythera mechanism shows us that technology can be 1,400 years ahead of its time and then disappear. Underwater structures reveal evidence from eras we believed were primitive hunter-gatherer societies barely surviving. And every time we dig, every time we dive, the story changes. The question is not what we have found. The question is how much we have not yet found. You are proud of your smartphone, of the internet of satellites circling the Earth. The Antikythera mechanism was built when people still believed the Earth was flat. And then that knowledge was lost, erased, forgotten, as though it never existed. So here is what we know. Resets happen. The myths remember them. The rocks confirm them. The fossils are silent about most of it. And lost civilizations show us that we understand far less than we think. But here is the question that should keep you awake tonight. If the Earth can reset civilizations, if floods and ice and fire can erase entire worlds, then how long will our technology survive? Our smartphones, our internet, our space stations, all the things we take such pride in, how long would they last if we vanished tomorrow? And if we disappear, if a reset comes and wipes us away, who will find us 100,000 years from now? Will they even know we were here? To understand how resets work, You need to step back from the catastrophes themselves and look at the rhythm beneath them. Because the Earth does not reset randomly, it follows patterns, cycles that repeat across hundreds of thousands of years, driven by forces so vast and so inevitable that they shape the very story of life itself. And at the heart of those cycles are two elemental forces, ice and fire, locked in an endless dance of destruction and renewal. Ice ages have come and gone 20 times in the last 2.5 million years. That is roughly one every 100,000 years, a clock ticking in geological time. When the ice advances, glaciers miles thick creep across continents, grinding mountains into valleys, burying entire ecosystems under weight and cold. And then, just as inevitably, the ice retreats. It melts pouring water into the oceans, raising sea levels by more than 100 meters, drowning coastlines, erasing the places where people might have lived. Every cycle is a reset, clearing the board, so that something new can begin. Fire works differently. It comes not in cycles, but in eruptions sudden and violent. Supervolcanoes, like Yellowstone or Toba, capable of altering the climate of the entire planet in a matter of days. Asteroids that strike with the force of billions of bombs, igniting forests on the other side of the world. Fire does not wait for a schedule. It arrives without warning, and when it does, it burns everything in its path. Between ice and fire, life is constantly tested, constantly reset, constantly forced to adapt or die. 74,000 years ago, a volcano called Toba, located in what is now Indonesia, erupted with a force that defies imagination. It ejected 2,800 cubic kilometers of ash and rock into the atmosphere, an amount 3,000 times greater than the eruption of Mount St. Helens. The ash cloud spread across the planet, blocking sunlight, turning day into twilight. For 6 to 10 years, the Earth experienced a volcanic winter. Temperatures dropped by 3 to 5 degrees Celsius globally. Crops failed, forests withered, and the human population, already small and scattered, collapsed. Genetic studies suggest that, at one point, there may have been as few as 10,000 humans left alive on the entire planet. We came closer to extinction than most people realize. We survived, but barely. And here is what makes it even more unsettling. Ice core data drilled from Greenland and Antarctica shows that climate does not change gradually. It does not slide slowly from warm to cold over centuries. It flips, like a light switch. Temperature records preserved in ancient ice reveal shifts of 10 degrees Celsius happening within a single decade, not over generations, within the span of a human lifetime. 1 year you have a temperate climate. 10 years later, you are living in an ice age. The Earth does not ease into resets. It jumps. Yellowstone is another reminder that fire is always waiting. The caldera beneath Yellowstone National Park last erupted 640,000 years ago. The cycle for eruptions at that site is roughly every 600,000 years, which means technically we are slightly overdue. When Yellowstone erupts again, and the explosion will be catastrophic. Ash will blanket 2/3 of the United States, rendering the land uninhabitable. Global temperatures will plummet. Food chains will collapse. It will not be the end of the world, but it will be the end of the world as we know it. The Earth has two moods, ice age or fire age. There is no comfortable room temperature era where everything stays stable. Stability is the exception, not the rule. And we happen to be living in one of those rare windows of calm, a brief interglacial period between ice ages, a moment of warmth that has lasted roughly 11,000 years and could end at any time. You worry about your retirement plan. The Earth is planning the next ice age, and it does not care about your 401k. But here is the twist, the part that changes how you think about all of this. After every catastrophe, after the ice melts, or the ash settles, or the fires burn out, the Earth does not die. It heals. And the way it heals is stranger and more resilient than you might expect. When you think about the scale of destruction the Earth has endured, asteroids, supervolcanoes, ice sheets, kilometers thick, oceans turned toxic, it seems impossible that life could ever recover. And yet somehow it always has, not immediately, not easily, but steadily over time, scales so vast that they stretch beyond human comprehension. The story of this planet is not just one of catastrophe, it is also one of healing. And that healing happens whether we are here to witness it or not. After each mass extinction, ecosystems rebuild. It takes millions of years, but the process is inevitable. Volcanoes that poisoned the atmosphere eventually stop erupting, and the carbon dioxide they released is slowly pulled back out of the air by the weathering of rocks, by the growth of new plants, by the chemistry of the ocean. Forests that burned to ash regrow their seeds lying dormant in the soil, waiting for the right conditions to sprout. Coral reefs that bleached and died under rising temperatures rebuild one polyp at a time over centuries and millennia. Healing does not mean returning to what was. It means finding a new balance, a new equilibrium. The Earth does not restore, it reinvents. In 1986, a nuclear reactor in Chernobyl, Ukraine, exploded, releasing massive amounts of radiation into the surrounding area. The land was evacuated, towns were abandoned. Scientists predicted it would remain a wasteland for centuries, too contaminated to support life. But something unexpected happened. In the absence of humans, wildlife returned. Wolves, bears, lynx, wild boar, all thriving in the exclusion zone. Their populations are higher now than they were before the disaster. The radiation is still there. It still causes mutations, still shortens lifespans. But life does not wait for perfect conditions. It adapts. It endures. The Earth, it seems, prefers radiation to us. After the Great Dying, the worst extinction event in history, the one that erased 96% of all life, it took 10 million years for biodiversity to fully recover. 10 million years. That is longer than humans have existed as a species. But it did recover. And when it did, the new species that emerged were more diverse, more complex, more adaptable than what came before. Dinosaurs evolved from the survivors, mammals appeared, birds took flight. Every catastrophe opens space for something new. The reset is not an ending, it is a beginning. Here is the uncomfortable truth that sits at the center of all of this. The Earth has survived 5 mass extinctions. It has survived asteroid impacts that vaporized continents. It has survived volcanic winters that lasted millennia. It has survived ice ages that buried half the planet under glaciers. And it will survive us. The question is not whether the Earth will recover. The question is whether we will be here when it does. The planet does not need us. It never has. We are passengers, temporary residents, on a world that has been resetting itself for billions of years and will continue long after we are gone. This might sound depressing, but there is something hopeful in it too. Life finds a way. It always has. No matter how severe the damage, no matter how complete the destruction, something survives. And from that, something life rebuilds, diversifies, spreads, fills every empty niche with new forms. The Earth is like Wolverine from the X-Men. You can stab it, shoot it, blow it up, and it will heal. We, on the other hand, are like normal humans, fragile, vulnerable, dependent on conditions staying within a narrow range. When those conditions shift, we struggle. When they collapse, we may not survive. But the Earth, it keeps going. The next time you feel anxious about the environmental crisis, about climate change, about ecosystems collapsing, remember this: the environment will be fine. It has been through worse, much worse. The real question is not whether the planet survives, it is whether we do. And that brings us to the irony at the heart of everything. While the Earth can heal from almost anything, given enough time, our footprints, the traces we leave behind, are far more fragile than we imagine. We build with the assumption that our creations will last. Skyscrapers of steel and glass, highways of asphalt and concrete, cities that sprawl across continents. We imagine these things as permanent monuments to human ingenuity that will stand for centuries, maybe millennia. But the truth is far more humbling. Without constant maintenance, without us there to repair and rebuild everything we have made, we'll crumble and vanish faster than you can imagine. A documentary called Life After People ran simulations of what would happen if humanity disappeared overnight. The models are sobering. Within 1 year, grass and weeds begin to push through cracks in highways. Roads buckle as water seeps underneath, freezing and thawing, breaking the asphalt apart. Within 50 years, most buildings lose their roofs. Rain gets in, walls weaken, structures that once seemed solid collapse under their own weight. Within 200 years, steel bridges fail, corroded by rust and stress. Within 500 years, only concrete and stone remain standing. And within 10,000 years, the skyline of Manhattan would look like nothing more than scattered rock formations, barely recognizable as the work of human hands. The things we imagine as eternal are shockingly temporary, and yet there are two things that will survive far longer than we would like. Nuclear waste, with a half-life of 24,000 years, will remain dangerously radioactive long after every building has fallen and every city has been reclaimed by forest, and plastic broken down into microscopic particles will persist in sediment layers for tens of thousands of years, maybe longer. The greatest legacy of our civilization, the thing that will outlast everything else, is our trash. That is what future archaeologists will find. Not our art, not our achievements, our waste. The irony is difficult to ignore. Your smartphone, the device you carry everywhere, the technology you depend on, will be a corroded, unrecognizable brick within 10 years if left abandoned. The Great Pyramid of Giza, built 4,500 years ago with nothing but stone and human labor, is still standing. The ancient Egyptians, with no computers, no steel, no modern tools, built something more enduring than anything we have created. We build smart cities that will collapse within centuries. They stacked rocks that have lasted 10,000 years and will likely last 10,000 more. Who exactly is the intelligent species here? It makes you think about legacy. You work your entire life You raise children, you create memories, you build a career, and you imagine that some part of you will endure, that your impact will ripple forward into the future. But the truth is simpler and sadder. Your legacy, like everyone else's, will be forgotten. Your children's children's children will not remember your name. The buildings you worked in will collapse. The roads you drove on will be overgrown with trees. And in 10,000 years, there will be no trace that you were ever here. Not because you were insignificant, but because that is the nature of time. Everything turns to dust. Everything fades. And if the technology we are so proud of, the machines and structures we believe define us, will vanish within millennia, then what about the technology of those who came before? If there were civilizations tens of thousands of years ago, if they built and thrived, and then were erased by resets, what would remain of them now? Almost nothing. A few chemical anomalies in the soil, unusual concentrations of metals in a thin layer of rock, maybe some plastic if they had it, but no buildings, no machines, no proof. They would be invisible to us, just as we will be invisible to whoever comes after. The earth is a relentless eraser. Wind wears down stone. Water carves through metal. Forests reclaim cities. Ice grinds landscapes flat. And time, patient and unstoppable, smooths over everything we have done until it looks as though we were never here at all. Our footprints are fragile. They will not last. And in that fragility, there is both loss and liberation. Because if nothing we build endures, then perhaps what matters is not the permanence of our works, but the meaning we find in the brief time we have. And if the technology of others before us vanished just as ours will, then maybe the question is not whether they existed, but whether we are brave enough to imagine that they did. If a technological civilization existed 50,000 years ago and was completely erased by a reset, what would remain today? The answer is uncomfortable. Almost nothing. A few chemical signatures in the rock, unusual concentrations of metals in a thin layer of sediment, maybe some plastic particles if they had developed polymers, but no cities, no machines, no structures, no proof that they ever built anything at all. And this raises a question that most scientists are reluctant to ask out loud. If our own technology will vanish within a few million years, leaving almost no trace, then how can we be certain that no one came before us? In 2018, a pair of scientists, one from NASA and one from the University of Rochester, published a paper with a provocative title. They called it the Silurian Hypothesis, named after a race of ancient reptiles from a science fiction show. But the question they asked was serious. If an industrial civilization had existed on Earth 100 million years ago, would we be able to recognize it? Today, they ran the numbers. They looked at what traces our own civilization would leave behind, and their conclusion was sobering. Probably not. We probably would not recognize it. Think about what would remain of us after 100 million years. The tectonic plates would have recycled most of the Earth's crust. Mountains would have risen and eroded. Oceans would have shifted. Glaciers would have come and gone dozens of times, grinding the surface flat. And in all that churning, almost nothing we built would survive. No buildings, no roads, no machines. What would remain are chemical anomalies. A spike in carbon isotopes, in a thin layer of rock caused by burning fossil fuels. Plastic particles pressed into sediment, breaking down but not disappearing. Trace amounts of rare earth elements concentrated in ways that do not occur naturally. That is it. That is all. No proof of cities, no evidence of technology, just faint chemical whispers that something once was different. And here is where it gets strange. There are objects rare and controversial that do not fit the timeline we have constructed. They are called UPARTs, out-of-place artifacts. The London Hammer, for example, a tool with a wooden handle and an iron head found encased in rock that is supposedly 140 million years old. Mainstream science explains it as contamination, a recent object that got embedded in older rock through natural processes. But the rock around it shows no signs of recent intrusion. The Coso artifact, discovered in California, looks disturbingly like a spark plug encased in a geode 500,000 years old. Again, the explanation is contamination, misidentification, hoax. But the questions linger. Look, I am not saying it was aliens. I am not suggesting that ancient astronauts visited Earth and left behind their tools. What I am saying is this. What if resets have happened more times than we think? What if technological civilizations have risen before not millions of years ago, but tens of thousands, and the evidence has simply eroded away? What if the Antikythera mechanism, that ancient Greek computer we found at the bottom of the sea, is not an anomaly, but a fragment of a pattern we have not yet recognized? Technology can vanish. Knowledge can be lost. Entire ways of thinking can disappear in a single generation if the conditions are right or wrong. Imagine archaeologists 50 million years from now digging through the remains of Earth, trying to piece together what happened. They find a layer of plastic particles, a spike in carbon dioxide, traces of plutonium that should not exist in nature, and they think something was here. Something changed the chemistry of the planet, but they find no buildings, no skeletons with smartphones in their hands, no evidence of cities or satellites or space stations, just chemical shadows. And they argue about what it means. Some say it was a natural event, a volcanic period, a meteor impact. Others say it was something else. But without proof, without fossils, without artifacts, they will never know for sure. That is us. 50 million years from now, we will be a mystery, a chemical signature in the rock and nothing more. You are proud of your technology, your phones, your computers, your cars and planes, and everything you have built. And you should be. It is remarkable. But in a few million years, it will be invisible as anything that came before. And that is the point. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, especially when the evidence has almost no chance of surviving in the first place. The Earth is too good at erasing, and time is too patient, which brings us to something even more unsettling. Resets do not only happen here, they happen everywhere, across the galaxy, across the universe. And when you realize that the fragility of everything becomes impossible to ignore, when we talk about resets, it is easy to keep our focus on Earth. This is the world we know, the ground beneath our feet, the place where all of our stories have unfolded. But if you lift your eyes to the night sky, if you think about the billions of stars scattered across the cosmos, a new and terrifying truth emerges. Resets are not unique to our planet. They are woven into the fabric of the universe itself. And out there, in the vastness of space, the forces that reset worlds are more powerful than anything we have experienced. Stars die, not peacefully, not quietly, but in explosions so violent they outshine entire galaxies. When a massive star exhausts its fuel, it collapses in on itself and then detonates in what is called a supernova. The explosion releases more energy in a few seconds than our sun will produce in its entire 10 billion year lifetime. The shockwave tears through space, obliterating planets, sterilizing moons, scattering heavy elements across light years. And from that destruction, something new begins. The debris seeds new stars, new solar systems, new chances for life. Every atom in your body, every bit of iron in your blood, every calcium molecule in your bones was forged in the heart of a dying star and scattered by a supernova. You are made of reset. You are the child of cosmic catastrophe. Galaxies collide. It sounds impossible, but it happens constantly on cosmological timescales. When two galaxies merge, their stars do not actually hit each other. Space is too vast for that. But the gravitational forces tear solar systems apart, flinging planets into the void, feeding black holes at the galactic centers, reshaping entire regions of space. Our own galaxy, the Milky Way, is on a collision course with the Andromeda Galaxy. In roughly 4 billion years, they will merge. It will not be a threat to us, not directly, but it is a reminder that nothing is permanent. Not planets, not stars, not even galaxies. Everything eventually resets. And then there is the Fermi paradox. If the universe is so vast, if there are billions of stars and trillions of planets, then where is everyone? Where are the aliens? Where are the signals, the probes, the evidence of other civilizations reaching out across the stars? One possible answer, and it is not a comforting one, is that civilizations do arise. They rise often, but they do not last. Cosmic resets, gamma ray bursts, supernovae, asteroid impacts wipe them out before they can spread. The universe is a shooting gallery, and we are standing in range. Gamma ray bursts are the most violent events in the known universe. When certain types of stars collapse, they do not just explode. They fire beams of concentrated radiation across space like cosmic shotguns. A gamma ray burst from a star 6,000 light years away could strip away Earth's ozone layer in seconds. Without the ozone, ultraviolet radiation from the sun would sterilize half the planet within months, and we would never see it coming. No warning, no chance to prepare, just a flash of invisible light, and then the slow collapse of everything that depends on the atmosphere for protection. We have been lucky. In recorded history, we have come close twice. In 775 AD, there was a massive cosmic ray event that left traces in ice cores and tree rings. In 1998, a gamma ray burst from a magnetar flooded the Earth's upper atmosphere with radiation. It was far enough away not to cause catastrophic damage, but it was a reminder the universe does not need to aim. It just needs to fire in our general direction. There is a star called Betelgeuse, a red supergiant about 650 light years from Earth. It is dying, and when it finally explodes, it will be visible from Earth in broad daylight, as bright as a full moon, for weeks. The radiation pulse could damage satellites. It could interfere with communication systems. It might even affect the chemistry of our upper atmosphere. We do not know exactly when it will happen, sometime in the next 100,000 years, maybe tomorrow, maybe not for millennia, but it is coming. A cosmic reset written in the life cycle of a star, and there is nothing we can do but watch. The Andromeda Galaxy is hurtling toward us at 250,000 miles per hour. In 4 billion years, it will collide with the Milky Way, and the two will merge into a single larger galaxy. By then, the Sun will have already begun dying, expanding into a red giant, and consuming the inner planets. So, it is not an immediate threat to us, but it shows the scale of the forces at work. Even galaxies, structures so vast they contain hundreds of billions of stars, are not permanent. They collide, they merge, they reset, and life, wherever it exists, must endure or perish. Perhaps this is the answer to the Fermi paradox. Civilizations rise frequently across the universe, but the universe is hostile. Gamma ray bursts sterilize planets. Supernovae irradiate solar systems. Asteroids strike without warning. And before a civilization can spread beyond its homeworld, before it can establish colonies on other planets or travel to other stars, a reset comes. They are wiped out, erased, and the universe moves on indifferent. We are not special. We are just the latest to roll the dice, and the odds are not in our favor. Imagine a gamma ray burst like a shotgun blast from 6,000 light years away. You do not see it. You do not hear it. You only know when your DNA starts to shred, when cancer rates spike, when ecosystems collapse. People worry about artificial intelligence becoming dangerous, about nuclear war, about climate change, and those are real threats. But the universe does not care about our plans. It has gamma ray bursts. It has supernovae. It has asteroid belts and dying stars. And any one of them could reset us before we even see it coming. This story began with Earth, with floods and fires and ice ages. But now we realize something larger. Resets are not a bug in the system. They are a feature. They are built into the universe at every level, from planets to stars to galaxies. Nothing lasts. Everything cycles. Destruction and creation locked in an endless rhythm. You worry about your own mortality, about growing old, about leaving something behind. Entire galaxies die. Stars that have burned for billions of years collapse into darkness, and from that darkness, new stars are born. That is the pattern. That is the truth. So here is where we stand. Resets are inevitable. The Earth resets. The universe resets. Everything eventually resets. The question is not whether the next reset will come. It will. The only question is when. And when it does, when the ice advances, or the fire falls, or the gamma rays sweep across the planet, what will we do? Are there lessons we can learn to survive? Or are we just next in line, waiting for our turn to be erased? If resets are inevitable, if the Earth and the universe operate on cycles of destruction and renewal, then the question becomes simple. How do we survive? Is there a blueprint, a set of principles that might carry us through the next catastrophe, whatever form it takes? The answer, as it turns out, is written into the fabric of life itself. Nature has been surviving resets for billions of years. And if we are willing to look, if we are willing to learn, it will teach us how. The first lesson is diversity. In every ecosystem that endures, in every species that survives, catastrophe, diversity is the foundation. When a forest contains 100 different species of trees, it can withstand disease, drought, and fire better than a forest planted with only one. When a population has genetic variation, it can adapt to changing conditions. Monocultures fail. They always have. A single crop covering 1,000 square miles is efficient until a fungus evolves to attack it, and then the entire harvest collapses. Diversity spreads risk. It ensures that when one thing fails, something else can take its place. This is why after every mass extinction, the survivors are never the dominant species. They are the ones tucked into corners, the generalists, the flexible, the diverse. Adaptability matters more than strength. The dinosaurs were powerful, successful, perfectly adapted to their world. And when that world changed, they died. Mammals, small and unremarkable, survived because they could eat anything, live anywhere, adjust to whatever conditions followed the catastrophe. The creatures that endure are not the strongest. They are the ones that bend without breaking the ones that can shift when the environment demands it. You can see this in every recovery period. After the asteroid impact, the species that thrived were the scavengers, the opportunists, the ones willing to try new strategies. Cooperation is another key. Nature does not reward isolation. The most resilient ecosystems are networks, webs of relationships where species depend on each other. Coral reefs, rainforest, grasslands, all of them are collaborations. Trees share nutrients through underground fungal networks. Predators and prey balance each other in cycles that sustain both. When catastrophe strikes, these networks provide stability. One species may fall, but the connections allow others to step in and fill the gap. Humans forget this. We imagine ourselves as separate, as individuals competing for resources. But survival has always been a group effort. Communities endure. Loners perish. Redundancy feels wasteful, but it is essential. In nature, multiple species often perform similar roles. If one disappears, another can take over. This prevents collapse from spreading. In our own systems, we have moved away from redundancy. We build centralized power grids that fail if one node goes down. We depend on global supply chains that break if a single link is disrupted. Efficiency is prized over resilience, but nature teaches the opposite. Backup systems are not luxuries. They are insurance. The species that survive have multiple ways to find food, multiple places to live, multiple strategies for reproduction. They do not put all their hope in one approach. And then there is patience. Recovery from catastrophe does not happen quickly. After the Great Dying, it took 10 million years for biodiversity to return to previous levels. After the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, it took millions of years for ecosystems to stabilize. Nature does not rush. It allows time to do the work. Humans, by contrast, expect instant solutions. We want to fix problems within years, within lifetimes. But resets do not work on human timescales. They work on geological time. The lesson is humility. Survival is not about speed. It is about endurance. There is a creature barely visible to the naked eye called a tardigrade. It is 0.5 millimeter long, shaped like a microscopic bear, and it has survived all 5 mass extinctions. It can live in the vacuum of space. It can endure temperatures of negative 272 degrees Celsius and positive 150 degrees. It can withstand radiation 1,000 times stronger than the dose that would kill a human. How it does not fight the environment, it adapts to extremes. When conditions become unbearable, it shuts down, entering a state of suspended animation and waits. When conditions improve, it revives. The secret is not strength, it is flexibility. Cockroaches survived the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. They are still here thriving, while the mighty reptiles are fossils. How did they do it? They eat anything. They live anywhere. They reproduce quickly. They are generalists. The morale is clear. Specialists go extinct. Generalists survive. And here is where humans face a problem. We have built a civilization that is the opposite of resilient. 60% of our calories come from 3 crops: wheat, corn, and rice. Monoculture on a planetary scale. Our systems are centralized. The internet depends on a few undersea cables. Power grids connect entire continents, which means a failure in one place cascades everywhere. And our skills have become hyper-specialized. Modern jobs require years of training in the narrow fields. In a reset, those skills become useless. We have built exactly the kind of civilization most vulnerable to collapse. A tardigrade can survive a nuclear war. Humans, we would struggle if the Wi-Fi went down for 24 hours. Your skill set, whatever it is highly specialized and completely useless in an apocalypse. The skill set of a cockroach, eat anything live anywhere, reproduce fast, remains relevant no matter what happens. That is not a comforting thought, but it is an honest one, and it leads to the question: if we know the lessons, if nature has written the blueprint for survival, then why are we ignoring it? Why are we building systems that increase fragility instead of resilience? Maybe because we do not believe the reset is coming, or maybe because knowing the lessons is not enough. You have to recognize the signs, and the signs are everywhere. The earth has reset before. We know this. The myths remember it. The rocks confirm it. And nature has survived by learning the patterns, by adapting when the signs appear. But here is the uncomfortable truth. The signs are appearing again, right now. And most of us are not paying attention. Climate is shifting in ways that mirror the periods before mass extinctions. Temperatures are rising faster than they have in 65 million years. Ice sheets are melting. Ocean currents are slowing. Weather patterns are becoming unpredictable, swinging between extremes. This is not gradual change. This is rapid destabilization, and it looks disturbingly similar to the early stages of past collapses. The difference is that this time, we are the cause. Extinction rates are accelerating. Right now, species are vanishing at a rate 100 to 1,000 times faster than the normal background rate. Some estimates suggest 150 to 200 species go extinct every single day. That is not normal. That is catastrophic. The only other times in Earth's history when extinction rates were this high were the periods immediately before the Big Five mass extinctions. We are not watching a slow decline. We are watching the beginning of a collapse. And it is starting where it always starts, at the bottom of the food chain. In Europe, 75% of insect biomass has disappeared in the last 25 years. Insects are the foundation. They pollinate crops. They feed birds and small mammals. They break down organic matter and recycle nutrients. When the insects go, everything built on top of them collapses. This is exactly how the Permian extinction began. Not with the big creatures dying first, but with the small ones, the ones no one notices, until it is too late. Coral reefs are bleaching. 50% of the Great Barrier Reef has died in just 5 years. Coral reefs host a quarter of all marine species. They are the rainforests of the ocean, and they are dying at a pace that mirrors the reefs lost during the Great Dying, when 95% vanished. The pattern is repeating. The ocean is warming. The chemistry is shifting. And the foundation is crumbling. There is a pattern to how civilizations collapse. It is not random. It follows steps predictable and relentless. First comes resource depletion. Soil erodes, water sources dry up, forests are cleared. Then comes climate stress, droughts, floods, unpredictable seasons. Then social fragmentation. Inequality widens. Trust breaks down. Institutions weaken. And finally, the tipping point. A war, a famine, a plague. Something that pushes the system past the point of recovery, and the collapse happens fast. Not over centuries, but over decades, or even years. Rome followed this pattern. The Maya followed it. The Bronze Age civilizations followed it. And when you look at where we are today, the parallels are impossible to ignore. Resource depletion. Check. We are draining aquifers, overfishing oceans, depleting topsoil. Climate stress. Check. Hurricanes, wildfires, floods, droughts, all intensifying. Social fragmentation. Check. Polarization, inequality, distrust of institutions rising everywhere. We are at step 3, and history suggests step 4 is not far behind. I know this sounds alarmist. I know it feels like fear-mongering. But geologists look at the data and say this is what the early stages of a mass extinction look like. This is what happens before the reset. The signs of apocalypse used to be metaphorical. Plagues, climate chaos, social collapse. Now they are literal. We have had pandemics. We have record-breaking heat waves. We have political systems tearing apart. The only thing we are missing is locusts. Oh wait, we have murder hornets. You think the world feels crazy right now? It does, because we are living in a transition period. The calm is ending. The reset is beginning. And most people are too busy with their daily lives to notice. The question is not whether a reset is coming. The question is what kind. Will it come from us, from our own choices, our own failures, or will it come from the universe, from forces beyond our control? And the answer, the uncomfortable answer, is that it might be both. There are two kinds of threats facing humanity. The ones we create ourselves, and the ones the universe throws at us. Both are real. Both are capable of erasing us. And both are coming. The only question is, which one arrives first? The human-made risks are easier to see because we are living with them. Climate change is destabilizing the systems that support civilization. There are 9 major climate systems currently at risk of crossing irreversible tipping points. The Amazon rainforest, which produces 20% of the world's oxygen, is approaching a threshold where it could flip from rainforest to savanna. The Greenland ice sheet is melting faster than models predicted, and if it collapses, sea levels will rise 7 meters. The Atlantic Meridional Overturning Current, which regulates weather across Europe and North America, is slowing, and if it stops, entire regions will experience climate chaos. These systems are interconnected. If one flips, it triggers a domino effect, and the latest models suggest we could cross these thresholds within 10 to 50 years, not centuries, decades. Nuclear war remains a constant threat. We have enough warheads to end civilization multiple times over. A large-scale exchange would not just kill hundreds of millions in the initial blasts. It would create a nuclear winter filling the atmosphere, with soot and ash blocking sunlight for years, collapsing global agriculture. Survivors would face starvation disease and the slow breakdown of everything that depends on technology and infrastructure. The weapons exist, the tensions exist, and history shows that when nations feel cornered, they make irrational choices. Artificial intelligence is a wild card. GPT-4 can already teach itself chemistry. The next generation could design bioweapons, hack critical infrastructure, manipulate financial systems in ways we cannot predict or control. We are creating intelligence that we do not fully understand, intelligence that might surpass us, intelligence that might decide we are no longer necessary. It sounds like science fiction, but we are already seeing early versions of this unfold. We created something powerful, and like the dinosaurs, creating the mammals that would eventually replace them, we may not survive what comes next. The most likely scenario is not a single catastrophic event. It is a cascade. Climate stress reduces crop yields by 30%. Water becomes scarce. Nations fight over resources. Someone launches a nuclear weapon. The electromagnetic pulse takes down power grids. Within 5 years, we are back to 1800s technology. Within 50 years, we are a forgotten civilization. Resets do not usually happen in isolation. They compound. One failure triggers another, and the system collapses faster than anyone expected. Imagine this. It is the 2040s. Summer temperatures regularly hit 120 degrees Fahrenheit in places that used to be temperate. Crop yields have dropped by a third. Coastal cities are flooding. Refugees number in the hundreds of millions. Governments are unstable. And then a conflict over water in Central Asia escalates. A nuclear weapon is used. The EMP fries electronics across half a continent. Supply chains collapse. Within a year, billions are facing starvation. Within a generation, the survivors are telling stories about the old world, the world of plenty, the world that ended. And within a few centuries, those stories become myths, and the cycle begins again. But even if we avoid the human-made disasters, even if we manage to navigate climate change and nuclear threats and rogue AI, the cosmos is still waiting. NASA is currently tracking 30,000 near-Earth objects. Roughly 2,000 are classified as potentially hazardous. Apophis, an asteroid 340 meters wide, will pass within 31,000 kilometers of Earth in 2029. That is closer than our satellite's orbit. One nudge, one collision with a smaller object that changes its trajectory, and it could hit us. We would have months of warning, maybe, but there is no plan to stop it. No technology capable of deflecting something that large moving that fast. Supervolcanoes do not care about our schedules. Yellowstone is overdue. Toba could erupt again. When they do, and they will, the ash will block out the sun for years. Agriculture will fail. Billions will starve. It will not be the end of humanity, but it will be the end of modern civilization. Gamma ray, bursts, supernovae, cosmic events. We cannot predict or prevent. All of them remain threats. The universe is indifferent to our survival, and it does not need to aim. It just needs to fire in our general direction. The good news is that we will probably survive. Humans are adaptable. Small populations in isolated regions might endure even the worst catastrophes. The bad news is that surviving is not the same as thriving. The world that comes after a reset will be harder, harsher, stripped of the comforts and technologies we take for granted. Your retirement plan assumes civilization continues. That is a bold assumption, because if resets erase nearly everything, if they wipe out cities and knowledge and the infrastructure we depend on, then what, if anything, endures? What survives when everything else is gone? When everything else is swept away? When cities crumble and technology fails and civilizations collapse into dust? There is one thing that has a chance of surviving. Not buildings, not machines, not the monuments we erect or the systems we build. What survives, fragile and imperfect as it is memory. And memory carried forward through stories, through the tales we tell each other in the dark, is the thread that connects one world to the next. But memory is also the most delicate thing we possess. It fades, it changes, it dissolves with time, leaving only shadows of what once was true. Languages die. Every 2 weeks, somewhere on Earth, the last speaker of a language passes away, and with them, an entire way of seeing the world vanishes. Each language carries unique concepts, unique stories, unique knowledge that cannot be translated. When it disappears, that knowledge is lost forever. Books decay, paper crumbles, ink fades. Even stone tablets carved with care and meant to last erode under the patient assault of wind and rain. The Library of Alexandria burned, taking with it scrolls that held centuries of accumulated wisdom. And we will never know what was lost, because the memory of those texts has also faded. Digital storage, which feels permanent, is perhaps the most fragile of all. The majority of human knowledge today exists only in digital form, stored on hard drives, servers, cloud networks. But hard drives fail within 5 to 10 years. The data degrades, the mechanisms corrode, and cloud servers, vast warehouses of information humming in the background of our lives, require constant power, constant cooling, constant maintenance. If civilization collapses, if the power grids go dark and stay dark, all of that information vanishes, not slowly, almost instantly. The internet, with its trillions of pages of text, its billions of images and videos, all of it would be gone. We would be left with whatever was printed on paper or carved into more durable materials. And most of what we consider important has never been printed at all. There have been studies of memory, of how it survives across generations, and the findings are sobering. Researchers studying Holocaust survivors found that within 3 generations, the memories become stories. The details shift, facts are misremembered, timelines blur. The essence remains the sense of tragedy, the weight of loss, but the specifics fade. And these are events that happened within living memory events that people worked hard to preserve, to document, to remember. Imagine what happens over 100 years, over 200, over 2,000. Our world, this world of smartphones and airplanes and global connectivity, will become myth. Future generations, if there are any, will tell stories about the age of the internet, about a time when people could speak to anyone, anywhere, instantly, when machines thought and calculated and remembered everything, and they will not believe it was real. They will think it was exaggeration, fantasy, the way we think of Atlantis. There have been attempts to preserve knowledge in ways that might survive. The Rosetta Project is one of them. Scientists and linguists have etched thousands of languages onto a nickel disc designed to last more than 2,000 years. It is a remarkable effort, but it can only hold a tiny fraction of what we know. They had to choose which languages, which concepts, which pieces of information are essential enough to save. And the rest, the vast majority of human knowledge, will have to take its chances with time. We like to think we are preserving everything, archiving it, making it accessible forever. But we are not. We are making choices often without realizing it about what matters and what does not. And those choices will determine what survives and what is forgotten. The speed at which memory transforms into myth is faster than we imagine. Consider the stories that emerged around COVID-19. Within 2 years, the narratives had already fractured into competing versions, some accurate, some distorted, some outright false. People argue about what happened, what the response was, what the consequences were. And this is an event that occurred in the age of universal documentation, where everything was recorded, filmed, written down. Now imagine what happens after 200 years. After 2000, the stories will still exist, but they will be unrecognizable. They will be myths shaped by the needs of the tellers, carrying emotional truth, but little factual accuracy. We have the entirety of human knowledge stored online, accessible with a few keystrokes. And yet, if the power goes out, most of us do not know how to grow food. We do not know how to purify water. We do not know how to build shelter or navigate by the stars, or treat common illnesses without modern medicine. Our priorities have been strange. We have built a civilization that depends entirely on systems we barely understand, systems that require constant energy, and maintenance systems that will fail if the conditions shift even slightly. And when they do fail, the knowledge stored in those systems will vanish, and we will be left with only what we remember, which history suggests will not be much. This whole story, this entire exploration of resets and resilience, and the fragility of everything we build might be forgotten within 100 years, unless someone takes the time to carve it into stone to preserve it in a form that can survive without electricity or infrastructure. It will dissolve like everything else. Who is volunteering for that task? The memories that matter most to you, the moments you hold dear, the experiences that define who you are, will be forgotten within 3 generations. Your grandchildren's children will not know your name. They will not remember your struggles, your achievements, your joys. You will be a ghost, a vague sense of ancestry, nothing more. This is true for all of us, not because we are unimportant, but because memory is fragile and time is relentless. And yet memory does survive, not in details, but in patterns. The flood myths carry the memory of real events, even if the specifics are lost. The stories of fire from the sky preserve the knowledge that catastrophe comes from above, even if the storytellers have forgotten what an asteroid is. Memory adapts, morphs, finds new forms. It survives, not by staying the same, but by changing, by becoming flexible enough to pass from one generation to the next. And in that flexibility, there is a kind of hope. Because even if we forget the facts, even if the details dissolve, the essence can remain. The warning, the lesson, the reminder that we are not the first and we will not be the last. So with all these resets, with all this forgetting, with all the evidence that nothing we build will last, is there any hope? Is there anything that endures beyond memory and myth, beyond the fragile threads of story that connect one age to the next? The answer perhaps surprisingly, is yes, but it is not the answer we usually expect. Resets are not endings. They feel like endings when you are living through them, when the world you know is collapsing around you, when everything familiar is being stripped away. But from the longer view, from the perspective of deep time resets, are transformations. They are the way the earth clears space for something new, the way life renews itself, the way the story continues. After every catastrophe, no matter how severe, life has come back. Not the same life, not the creatures that were lost, but something else, something adapted to the new conditions, something that fills the emptiness and begins again. This is not a metaphor. This is the literal history of the planet. After the asteroid impact that ended the age of dinosaurs, mammals rose from the ashes and diversified into thousands of forms. After the Great Dying, when 96% of all species vanished, the survivors rebuilt ecosystems more complex than what existed before. After every ice age, forests regrew oceans, refilled with life, and the cycle continued. Resets are not the end of the story. They are the punctuation marks, the moments when one chapter closes and another begins. Impermanence is not a tragedy. It is simply reality. Everything changes. Everything fades. Stars are born, burn for billions of years, and then die scattering their atoms into space. Galaxies collide, merge, and form new structures. Planets cool, crack, and are eventually consumed by their aging suns. And life, wherever it emerges, follows the same pattern. It rises, it flourishes, and it eventually falls. But the falling is not the end. It is part of the rhythm, the cycle of destruction and creation that has been repeating since the universe began. Every moment is precious, not despite its temporariness, but because of it. If things lasted forever, if permanence were possible, then nothing would have meaning. It is the fact that time is limited, that opportunities pass, that people we love will not always be here that gives weight to the present. The dinosaurs ruled the earth for 165 million years, and then an asteroid struck, and they were gone. If that asteroid had missed, if the dinosaurs had continued, then mammals would never have had the chance to rise. Primates would never have evolved. Humans would never have existed. Every bit of your existence is owed to a catastrophe. The reset that ended the dinosaurs was not your enemy. It was your creator. Without destruction, there is no space for creation. Without endings, there are no beginnings. In the 13.8 billion years since the universe began, it has reset countless times. Stars have been born, lived, and died. Galaxies have collided and reformed. Life has emerged, vanished, and emerged again in new forms. We are not exceptions to this pattern. We are continuations of it. You are standing on a planet that has died and been reborn 5 times. You are made of atoms that were forged in the cores of dying stars and scattered by supernovae. You are a descendant of survivors of creatures that endured ice ages and volcanic winters and impacts and plagues. You are living proof that resets are not ends. They are beginnings. So what endures? Not buildings, not technology, not names or achievements, or the monuments we erect to convince ourselves we will be remembered. What endures are patterns, rhythms, the cycles of renewal that play out across all scales, from the daily rising of the sun to the birth and death of galaxies. And what endures is consciousness, the ability to witness, to wonder, to tell stories, to look at the universe and know that you are part of it. That capacity, that awareness has survived every catastrophe. It has been passed forward through every reset, carried in the minds of survivors who looked at the ruins and chose to begin again. You are living in a brief window between the last catastrophe and the next one. The Ice Age ended 11,700 years ago. The next one could begin any time in the next few thousand years, or tomorrow. The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs struck 66 million years ago. The next one is already out there somewhere in the darkness following its orbit. The supervolcanoes are building pressure. The stars are aging, and somewhere in a distant corner of the galaxy, a gamma ray burst is forming, ready to sweep across space at the speed of light. The reset is coming. It always comes. The only question is when. And here is what matters. We cannot prevent it. We cannot stop the ice from advancing, or the asteroids from falling, or the stars from exploding, but we can prepare. We can build resilience into our systems, spread diversity across our populations, preserve knowledge in forms that might survive. We can recognize that we are not controllers of destiny. We are participants in a cosmic rhythm that is far larger and far older than we are. And in that recognition, there is a kind of peace, because it means we are not alone. We are not the first to face this, and we will not be the last. Every morning the sun rises. Darkness gives way to light. It is a miniature reset, a daily reminder that endings lead to beginnings. Night does not last, and neither does day. The rhythm continues, constant and inevitable. That is the truth at the heart of everything. Resets are not failures. They are part of the design. And within every reset, there is the seed of a new dawn. So here is what I would say to you, wherever you are right now, whether you are listening to this in the quiet of your room, or while drifting toward sleep, or while staring at the ceilings in the middle of the night. Enjoy your coffee, pet your dog, call your mother, because civilization could end at any moment. The ice could advance, the asteroid could strike, the volcano could erupt. But today is not that day, probably. And even if it is, even if the reset comes tomorrow, you have this moment, right now. And that is not nothing. This story began with a question. Has Earth been reset? The answer is yes, many times, and it will be reset again. But that is not scary. That is, in a strange way, liberating, because it means you do not have to chase permanence. You do not have to build monuments that will outlast you or achieve fame that echoes through the ages. You can let go of the need to be remembered. You can stop worrying about legacy and start living in the present, fully, completely, knowing that this moment, this brief flicker of awareness is enough. You worry about being forgotten? Good. Because when you accept impermanence, when you stop fighting against the reality that everything fades, you stop chasing immortality and start living presently. Every moment becomes precious, not despite its temporariness, but because of it. The dinosaurs did not know their time was ending. We do. And that knowledge is a gift. It allows us to see the beauty in the temporary, to find meaning in the fleeting, to understand that we are not meant to last forever. We are meant to be here now, briefly, and then to pass the story forward to whoever comes next. Earth has been reset. It will be reset again. We are the current version, Not the first, possibly not the last, but we are here, now, aware, and that is extraordinary because in the vast cosmic dance of destruction and creation, in the endless cycle of resets and renewals in all the time the universe has existed, you exist right now, in this brief window between the last catastrophe and the next one. You are the universe becoming conscious of itself, briefly, beautifully, temporarily. Every reset is also a dawn, and today is your dawn. Live accordingly.